It was a chilly autumn evening when Sarah's parents left for a weekend getaway, leaving her home alone for the first time. Excited yet apprehensive, she settled into her cozy living room with a book and some snacks. The house was silent except for the occasional creaks and groans that old houses tend to make. She told herself it was just her imagination playing tricks. As the evening wore on, Sarah began to hear strange noises that she couldn't easily dismiss. Soft whispers seemed to echo down the hallway, and the floorboards outside her room creaked as if someone was walking around. She tried to shake off her unease, attributing the sounds to the wind or the settling of the house. With nightfall, the noises escalated. Sarah's heart raced as she heard distinct footsteps approaching her room. Trembling, she slowly opened the door to investigate. To her shock, she found nothing. The corridor was empty, but a faint draft gave her a shiver that had nothing to do with the temperature. She closed the door, trying to convince herself she was being paranoid. Sarah retreated back to her room, but the feeling of being watched intensified. She locked the door, hoping to find some solace in the safety of her sanctuary. Just as she began to calm down, a soft whisper brushed against her ear, sending shivers down her spine. "You're not alone," the voice seemed to say. Panicking, she switched on all the lights in the room. The lights seemed to offer a sense of security, but the unease persisted. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on eerie shapes that seemed to move on their own. Sarah's phone buzzed with a text message from her parents, checking in on her. She quickly replied, hoping that communicating with someone would calm her nerves. As the night deepened, Sarah's isolation grew more pronounced. The whispers became more frequent, and she could hear faint laughter echoing through the halls. She was torn between staying in her room and investigating further. Fear had a firm grip on her, but her curiosity pushed her to explore. With a flashlight in hand, Sarah gathered her courage and ventured into the dimly lit corridors. Every step felt heavy, as if she was walking through a dream. The air grew colder, and the oppressive feeling of being watched became nearly unbearable. She reached the end of the hallway, and her flashlight illuminated a figure in the darkness. The figure's face was shrouded in shadows, and its eyes gleamed with an unnatural intensity. Frozen in fear, Sarah tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. The figure started to approach slowly, its steps echoing loudly in the silence. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she turned and ran back to her room, locking the door behind her. Back in her room, Sarah frantically searched for a way to escape. She dialed 911 on her phone but was met with an eerie silence. The line seemed dead, and a sinking feeling settled in her stomach. She glanced out the window, hoping to see a neighbor or a passing car, but the street outside was empty and still. As the night dragged on, Sarah barricaded herself in her room, her back against the door. The whispers and footsteps grew more persistent, as if the unseen presence was testing her defenses. Exhausted and terrified, she fought to stay awake, fearing that if she closed her eyes, she might never open them again. In the quiet suburbs of Oak Ridge, a quaint two-story house sat nestled among the trees. A young woman named Emily had just moved in after inheriting the house from her late grandmother. Eager for some solitude and independence, she found herself home alone for the first time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Emily settled into her new home. She heard faint whispers and creaking sounds, but dismissed them as products of her imagination. Later that night, while taking a relaxing bath, she noticed steam-forming words on the bathroom mirror, spelling out eerie messages. The sense of unease grew, but she blamed it on the stress of moving. Over the next few days, Emily's unease turned into genuine fear. She found doors ajar that she was sure she'd closed, and objects seemed to move on their own. In the dead of night, she woke to the sound of footsteps pacing outside her bedroom door. When she mustered the courage to investigate, there was no one there, but the chill in the air was unmistakable. Desperate for answers, Emily researched the history of her grandmother's house. She discovered that the house had once been owned by a family with a tragic past. A young girl had died under mysterious circumstances, and rumors swirled that she still roamed the halls, searching for something unfinished. Emily became convinced that the entity was trying to communicate with her. As Emily delved deeper into the girl's history, she realized the only way to ease the unrest was to confront the spirit. Armed with candles and a makeshift Ouija board, she attempted to communicate. The room grew cold, and the candles flickered violently. The planchette moved on its own, spelling out cryptic messages that hinted at a terrible secret. Determined to put the spirit to rest, Emily reached out to a local paranormal investigator for help. Together, they conducted a thorough investigation of the house. They discovered a hidden compartment containing the girl's diary, which detailed the circumstances of her death and revealed the truth about her passing. The investigator performed a cleansing ritual, and the house fell silent once more. With the spirit's story finally told, Emily found a sense of closure for both herself and the restless entity. She decided to stay in the house, feeling a newfound connection to the past. As she settled into her new life, she couldn't help but wonder if the girl's whispers still lingered in the quiet corners of the house, a testament to the enduring power of unfinished stories. In a quiet, remote village nestled at the edge of a dense forest, lived a young woman named Amelia. She had recently moved into an old, creaky house that had an air of mystery about it. With a fondness for solitude, Amelia felt drawn to the house's eerie charm. One chilly evening, Amelia found herself alone at home, surrounded by the flickering glow of candlelight. The wind howled outside, causing the ancient trees to sway ominously. As she sat by the fireplace, engrossed in a book, a strange sensation washed over her, a feeling of being watched. Amelia shook off her unease, attributing it to her overactive imagination. However, as the hours passed, the unsettling feeling intensified. The walls seemed to whisper secrets, and the shadows danced in a peculiar, almost orchestrated manner. Her heart raced as she realized that the old mirror hanging on the wall was reflecting a room that wasn't there, a room with walls covered in unsettling symbols and markings. Brushing it off as a trick of the light, Amelia tried to distract herself. But then, a soft, disembodied voice echoed in the room, whispering her name. She looked around, her breath hitching in her throat. No one was there, and the voice had no discernible source. As the night deepened, Amelia's sense of unease grew, her heart pounding like a drum. She hesitated to look into the mirror again, but an inexplicable force compelled her. To her shock, the reflection now showed a figure standing behind her, draped in tattered garments. Its eyes were hollow, yet they bore into her soul with a haunting intensity. Frozen in terror, Amelia tried to scream, but her voice caught in her throat. The figure reached out from the mirror, its fingers brushing against hers, sending a chill through her entire being. It whispered words of longing and despair, a tale of a tragic life cut short by betrayal and sorrow. As Amelia listened, tears welled up in her eyes. She felt an inexplicable bond with the tormented figure, its story resonating with emotions she had never experienced before. But as dawn's light began to filter through the curtains, the figure's form started to waver, fading back into the mirror. Amelia was left standing alone in the room, her heart heavy with the weight of the encounter. She questioned her sanity, wondering if it had all been a dream. Yet, as she gazed into the mirror, she noticed faint etchings on the glass, the same symbols and markings she had seen in the reflection. Days turned into weeks, and Amelia found herself haunted by the memory of that night. She researched the history of her house and discovered a tragic tale from the past, the story of a young woman who had lived in the house long ago, betrayed by those she loved. Amelia realized that she had made a connection with a spirit trapped between realms, reaching out for solace. Determined to help the tormented soul find peace, she delved into ancient rituals and incantations, hoping to break the cycle of suffering. In a climactic night, Amelia performed the ritual in front of the mirror, reciting incantations passed down through generations. As she did, the room was filled with a ghostly light, and the figure emerged once more from the mirror. With a final, sorrowful gaze, the figure slowly dissipated, its form merging with the light. The house was finally still, the unsettling air lifted. Amelia knew that she had helped the spirit find release, and as she looked into the mirror, she saw her own reflection, stronger and wiser from the haunting ordeal. The old mirror had become a conduit between two worlds, a gateway to a past that was finally at peace.